Scott, thank you so much for being on the show. I've been a fan of your work for, I can't even remember how many years, and you've really been a prominent voice in our space. So I really appreciate you breaking out, the time and sharing your wisdom with us.
Yeah, happy to, man. It's always good to see you and chat and reconnect.
I always think about your story, and of course, there's a lot to it. But some of the stuff that really stands out was your journey from like, a professional athlete to then being, really this thought leader in our technology world. Which you think about those worlds and kind of like some of the overlapping, I think, things that make you great. And I think that's one of the things that people really love about you. You inspire people and get them really fired up. Um, so just wanted
I
to
appreciate
highlight
that.
that for
Appreciate
sure.
that.
Well, dude, let's dive in because, there's been this topic, really two kind of adjacent topics like near bound and then go to network. And you're really the first individual that I've heard talk about it. So why don't we start off with like defining what is near bound, also like what is go to network, and how should organizations approach integrating these strategies into their overall go to market strategies?
Yeah. So if you think about like go to market sits up here, and under go to market is often outbounds and inbounds that you're dealing with, right? So go to network sits up here as a adjacent piece of go to market, and underneath go to network is nearbound, which is this new kind of play, or at least the new definition of a play. And all it really means is you're utilizing relationships to break into new accounts or to influence accounts that you're already in discussions with.
Mm.
And that in and of itself is not new at all. Especially enterprise sellers have been doing that, forever, right? But what's happened is that enterprise kind of relationship model has slid down into mid-market, into SMB, even into almost transactional local selling because of a few reasons. The first reason is all the data in the world shows that cold calling and cold emailing are less effective today than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and 20 years ago. It doesn't mean they're dead. It doesn't mean anybody should stop doing them. It just means that they don't work as well. And when something doesn't work as well, we try to find alternatives that pick up the pace, pick up the slack,
Mm.
right? So the traditional outbound strategies are not working as well. It's undeniable, right? Then there is human behavior, which has changed, right? If you think about your stepson and my kids, right? When was the last time you saw them talk on the phone to anybody? They don't use the telephone.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard them talking about emailing friends, family, coaches, teachers even? They don't email anybody, right? So you think about us, I'm 46 years old. I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, if the phone rang in the house, it was like an event.
Yeah.
Everybody would run to the phone and be like, who's it for? Da, da, da. It's like exciting or whatever. Now, all of us have our phone with the ringer off basically 24/7 because we think it's a distraction. So we just don't view these modes of communication the same way. And so we talk on the phone less. Same thing with email. When you first, got into email, you're reading every email. You thought everything was interesting. Now we're jaded and we think that 90% of the stuff in our inbox is spam or somebody trying to sell us something that we don't need. So in a world where cold calling and cold emailing a 46-year-old person doesn't work as well as it used to. Now imagine that world 5-10 years from now when our teenagers are executives or have founded their own companies. Do you think that my teenage sons are going to cold call somebody or pick up cold calls from total strangers? This concept makes absolutely no sense to them. So human behavior, has changed. And so out of that arises this go to network kind of near bound motion where you're finding a trusted source to make an introduction to somebody that you want to talk to So the weirdness, the awkwardness, the spook is all gone,
Mm.
right? So practically, let's say I want to reach Richard Harris and I don't know Richard Harris. Okay. But I know you, and I know you know Richard Harris because I saw that he was on your podcast the other day. So I reach out to you and say, hey, Jorge, I'm trying to get a hold of this guy, Richard. Here's what we do, the problem that we solve. I don't know if he has this problem, but on the surface, it looks like he does. Do you know him well enough to see if he's open to having a conversation with me? And you're like, well, yeah, I trust Scott. Good guy. Product looks pretty good. I know Richard. Let me just see what Richard thinks. So you go to Richard and you say, hey, my buddy Scott wants to talk to you. I can vouch for him. He's not going to waste your time. I don't know if you have this problem or not, but this is what they solve. Are you interested in taking the meeting? Richard is over here going, okay, well, I know Jorge. I trust him. He's not going to waste my time. He gets along with this guy, Scott.
I hope you trust me, Richard. I love you, brother.
Richard goes, I actually do have this problem. Sure, I'll take the call. So you have now brokered a meeting between Richard and I. Richard didn't have to have his day interrupted by a total stranger. I didn't have to interrupt a total stranger's day. So it's a calm process. We've both opted into this process. There's inherent trust there already. And now if he does buy, what I do as the seller is I kick you back for making the intro. I pay you 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it is. I compensate you for making that intro. That's practically how the nearbound play works.
Awesome. A couple things that stand out to me. The first thing is like the top salespeople that I've ever worked with, irrespective of industry, from like my door to door selling encyclopedia books, back in college, to enterprise, always did referrals really well. But it was this like, sort of broken kind of more art type thing. And it feels like some of the sort of underpinnings of doing referrals really well are now being productized into a tool. I know there's the High Five folks, shout out to them, who are doing some really great things in this kind of world. And so, another story that sort of stands out that I remember was speaking to like the very low level sales motion that I was engaged with throughout my career, which was that, door to door sales stuff. I complete a sale, knock on the door, go through my whole spiel, close the transaction, collect a check. And then I would ask, hey, Sally, or, Mr. Jones, do you know anyone else in your neighborhood that might be interested, that are in your school district of your kids, et cetera, that would see value from this? And again, that was just very much this like non-tech oriented sale, and there was basically that was being executed verbally, right,
Yeah.
through me. And so, when you talk about like those underpinnings, that sort of stands out, that now we're able to actually do this in a more process oriented way, and there's incentives on all sides.
Yeah. And we've found ways to sort of scale that rather than just being one to one. Let's say you're a founder at a company right now, or you're a seller at a company. I guess it doesn't matter. Founders have traditionally gone to their VCs to get their first customers. That's a nearbound motion, actually, right? But they usually stop right there, which is a silly mistake. Because what they should do is go to their VCs, then they should go to their advisors and ask. They should go to their employees and ask. You never know. I know somebody the other day who had a list put in front of them, and they were like, I was in a fraternity in college with these two guys and opened $900,000 of pipeline from 2 sales instantly because they went to school with these people. Right. And it wasn't somebody in the same industry or anything like that. So you just never know. So your employees, you can do it. You can reach out to communities, micro communities like Surf and Sales community, GTM United community, Rev Genius community, Pavilion community, and on and on and on and on. Right. You can reach out to respected kind of voices and influencers in the space. You could scour LinkedIn right now, and the 10 people that you see the most there, you could reach out to them and say, hey, in exchange for some cash or some equity or whatever, like, Can you make some introductions to any of these people? Right. So all of these things are ways to scale all this out. And then you mentioned the products that are being built to help, like High Five and stuff like that. Right. So all of this is new in the sense of it being incorporated into every sales organization on the planet, and
Hmm.
finding ways to do this kind of thing a little bit deeper. Right.
Awesome. Well, let's transition over to some of your tips. You are, as I mentioned, one of the top voices in B2B sales here on planet Earth. I don't know about Mars yet, but maybe we'll get there. What tip or so would you give a sales leader that you think would make an immediate impact on their sales reps' performance, like today?
As pertains to this nearbound kind of approach, or just in general, you mean?
I would say just maybe in general, but if you wanted to, maybe add a denier bound flavor to it, that's certainly a plus for sure.
Yeah, I think that you have to recognize that the world is a little bit different now, in how we work, in how we're motivated, in different channels that work or don't work, right? So my tip, we all know that you get what you kind of measure, right? So if you want this nearbound motion to work, you have to measure it. So one easy thing to do is make network growth a daily KPI. Measure it, gamify it, make a competition out of it with your sales team. List everybody's LinkedIn connection numbers today, and then broadcast the numbers every week or every month. Do an update. Systematically have your reps send out 15 new connection requests a day, which I believe is like the limit before LinkedIn starts to freak out on you. But whatever the limit is, that's what I would send out every day. I wouldn't try to pitch anybody. I would just be like, what's up, Jorge? Looking to connect with founders out there, learn from them. Let me know if I can ever be helpful to you. And that's it. I'm going to say nothing else. Right. Then I'd probably systematically have my sellers write comments on 10 potential prospects' posts every single day. Notice I haven't done anything yet around building your own brand or creating your own content. None of that stuff. You don't have to do that stuff yet if you don't want to. And don't overthink this approach and think, well, I don't have budget to buy a product. I can't run this. I don't have a big network. It's so simple. You could literally take 100 prospects that you're trying to get a hold of today, dump them in a spreadsheet, put the business name in one column, the contact name you're trying to reach in the other column, the LinkedIn URL in the third column, and that's it. And send it to your VCs, your advisors, your employees, influencers. Put it in front of micro communities, right? And just see who knows somebody. And if they don't know anybody, don't stop. If you made 20 cold calls today and nobody picked up, would you stop? Nobody stops. They keep picking up the phone. You send 20 emails, nobody responds. Do you stop? So why would you stop this nearbound approach if the first attempt didn't work? If the first attempt doesn't work, make a new list of 100 and put it in front of the same people, or take the original list and put it in front of different people. These are very, very brain dead, simple steps to start executing this play today. And that would be the advice that I would give somebody.
Awesome. I was going to ask you, in this whole social selling world, what would be your recommendations around those day-to-day activities? I think that's it, right? And
That's it.
and that's a great way to get started.
Yeah, it's super simple. Nobody should be able to push back on that, right? You can copy paste a note in the connection request, or you can send no note in the connection request if you want, right? It takes 10 minutes at most to type up comments on 10 people's, posts that you see. It's a fun way to create a competition inside your team, see who's growing the most, network, track it, include yourself. If you're a VP of sales in there, have a contest. If somebody grows faster than you, then they get, XYZ thing. All of these things matter. you grow the size of your network by 2x, 10x, whatever, your whole life will change. We know that because some of us have done it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the sales leaders out there, I think that you really have to think about this from a fundamentals perspective. Like, we all know that in sales, relationships matter, right? Like, period. And so whether you looked at relationship building from a perspective of going to events or developing relationships through other channels, and so this now allows us to do this relationship building and connecting at scale. And I think there's also this other layer, which is, now LinkedIn, according to Ogilvy, a recent study, LinkedIn has now become the number one B2B growth channel,
Wow.
period, right? By far. I mean, the other channels were not even close. And so I think finally we've been able to really see the value in many ways of LinkedIn, and we have to be doubling down. So thank you so much. And I think, Scott, one of the things I was also going to ask you was maybe a good set of OKRs. And it sounds like you mentioned it, connections, being able to have a set
Yeah.
of OKRs that speak to connection requests, and then growth of network, right? And there's certainly a correlation between
Yeah.
sending those connection requests and
Yeah.
you know
And again, you get what you measure. So measure overall network growth and gamify it. Be transparent with everybody on your team, gamify it. Track how many connection requests everybody sent. Unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't play nice in the sandbox and plug that into your CRM for you, but fine, do it manually. A
Mhm.
little bit of an honor system, sure, but do it manually. Make sure everybody's sending out 15 a day, 100 a week, whatever. See how close you get to your goal. If I have 10 people sending 100 a week, that's 1,000. Did we hit our goal this week? Did we go over our goal? How bad did we miss? 10 comments. Did everybody do their 10 comments today? Right? And when you get to a place where you have people who are ready to start creating their own content, track how many pieces of original content somebody posted. These are all KPIs that now in this new modern selling world count as touch points. It's just as good as a cold call, just as good as a cold email, arguably better.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to get started.
Yeah.
Real easy.
Yeah, and all those network effects, right? That
All
that
those compound. That's right.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you send a cold email, it's the only individuals that have an opportunity to see that, right? That message or that communication is yourself and then the receiver of that email. On LinkedIn, you make a comment on someone's post that can be amplified now across various networks, including individuals who are not, connected to you directly. So just something to keep in mind, sales leaders out there. So let's real quick, before we wrap up here today, wanted to talk about surf and sales. It's become like this really special network and community of sales and revenue leaders. But just for the folks out there who have not heard about it, what is surf and sales? Who should attend, and what would they get out of it outside of some awesome, like, community and surfing and spiritual time?
Yeah, this is Surf and Sales Summit. You can check it out at surfandsales, SALES.com. And it's a micro conference. It was born in 2017, late 2017, to be the opposite, the antithesis of big, huge, mega sales conferences like Dreamforce and SaaStr and all these kinds of conferences. No shade really against them, but not everybody likes that type of scene. Not everybody learns that way. Not everybody networks that way. Not everybody wants to go to San Francisco every year, right? So instead, I shrunk the size of a sales conference massively, all the way down to 20 people. Instead of going to a common city or place that everybody's been to before, I take everybody to Costa Rica on the coast, this little place called Playa Grande, just north of Tamarindo. So you get out of your comfort zone, you get around a small number of like minded people. These are founders, VPs of sales, heads of marketing, account executives, SDRs, folks in revenue ops, folks in customer success, folks from all around the world. I've had people from 8 to 10 countries, something like that, come a bunch of countries from Europe, right? So people from all over in different roles at different stages of their career. And we spend, 4 or so hours a day doing content and teaching about sales or business or branding or whatever the topics are that particular year. And then we spend the other half of the day surfing. We provide surf lessons for everybody, good food, good drinks if you're into that kind of thing, Zen time, yoga, meditation, walk on the beach. We've done zip lining before. And I think beyond the content, what you're getting out of it is the opportunity to spend 5 days with 20 people at similar stages in their lives and have gone through things and you can relate to, and you walk away having met 20 new friends that you can lean on for support. We've had people hire each other. We've had people close deals off each other. We've had people implement the advice they got and radically alter their entire business in a good way. All these kinds of, fun things happen. And the beauty of it is in all those in-between moments. And those in-between moments happen more frequently when you provide space for them to happen. It's very hard to have those kind of moments in a super crowded rave party in a warehouse in San Francisco, right? It's a lot easier when you're chill on the beach, right? And so that's what it is. And we've been holding, 2 or 3 of them a year for 7 years now or so, sold out damn near every single one of them. We've had amazing companies sponsor us. And yeah, you should check it out if you're looking for an alternative to mega sales conferences.
Awesome. It sounds incredible. It sounds like the perfect combination of the things that I love and the environments that I really thrive in, and education and strategy. So that sounds awesome. One last question. You just launched GTM United recently, and just wanted to kind of highlight that here a bit. What is it, and who should be checking it out and seeing value from it?
Yeah, it's just a micro community. It's kind of an offshoot of Thursday Night Sales community, which I ran for a number of years. It's just a place to provide support, information, content, resources, connecting people with sales material and trainings and new job opportunities and things like this. There's lots of different micro communities out there. This one is free. I'm not trying to grow it to 9 billion people. There's like 250 people in it right now. So it's just, centered around trying to help each other out in any way that we can.
I just got to give Thursday Night Sales a shout out, just because it was really awesome, and it felt like a big family. So,
Yeah,
Scott, you are the ultimate community person, and bringing folks together. And I think your genuine care and love for people certainly stood out, in all the events that I've been at that you put on, and certainly, Thursday
appreciate that.
Night Sales was awesome. So, shout
Appreciate
out
that,
to you.
brother.
Yeah, for
We gotta,
sure.
we gotta, we gotta, we gotta find a way to get you down to surf and sales to Costa Rica.
Absolutely. I'll ping you after.
It's made for you.
Totally, totally. Well, thank you so much, Scott. If folks wanted to follow you on social, I'm gonna guess LinkedIn's probably the best channel to reach you and follow your content.
Yeah, that's the only one I've really been using consistently. I'm on Twitter as well, been there for a little bit, and I'm brand new at Instagram and TikTok. So I'm sub 1,000, followers on those platforms. I'm brand new, as I've been making an effort for the first time. So, you can check me out on any of those places. But if you hit me on LinkedIn, that's the most reliable place for sure to get a response from me.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.